Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our final webinar in our series of 4 webinars that we did between NAPS and Mom Cozy. I'm Emily Silver. Yes, this is our final webinar, but don't worry because I teach classes like this all the time, and I'm going to tell you how you can keep hanging out with me. And Mom Cozy recorded all of these webinars. So if you missed the first webinars of this series, it's no problem. We're going to get you those recordings. They live on the Mom Cozy YouTube channel, and NAPS will be emailing you the recording with course notes this week. So you're just going to get lots of good stuff from us. Welcome, everyone. As everyone joins in, I see you're already all saying hi. I love that. Tell me, where are you tuning in from? And I'd love to know, are you expecting a baby? Do you already have a baby? We're going to talk about infant sleep as it relates to feeding today. And really my biggest, best tips for getting more sleep when you have a newborn. You know what my biggest pet peeve is? When you have a baby and people tell you, oh, you'll never sleep again. It's like the worst advice ever, right? All right, let's see where everybody's tuning in from. Oh, wow, we have California, Canada, London, very cool, Virginia. It really impresses me every Friday when I'm with you all, where you all tune in from. Washington State, Canada, California, New York. I love it. Texas, welcome. So I'm seeing a lot of mixes out there of people who are pregnant or expecting babies. Oh, Singapore, very cool. And people who do have babies. So wow, we just have like a really amazing, healthy mix today. And I love it. I love it. Awesome. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some introductions. We're going to dive in. There's a lot of content today. It's a packed session. But what I like to do is to make sure I'm going to watch my clock. I love to save time. And at the ending, we are going to answer some of your questions. What I usually do is I'll be looking at the chat, but when I go to do questions at the end, I'll also be using the Q&A feature. So as I'm teaching, and you're thinking of questions or things come to mind, feel free to pop those into the Q&A. And I'll also be watching the chat as well, but I will come back and answer questions live. All right, I think we have a lot of you here and we're probably ready to start. Yes, and we have Hannah here from NAPS. She's reminding you to put all the questions in the Q&A, but I'll also be checking the chat just to see where you're from and what you're doing too. All right, so let's get going here. We are going to cover infant sleep and feeding. I will properly introduce myself, but I do want to just call out that this webinar series is hosted with our partners through Mom Cozy. Mom Cozy is just truly an incredible brand. You need to check them out. I'm assuming you already know about them, and that's how you found your way here today. But from nursing bras to wearable pumps, they have incredible products. They also have just an incredible community. I have been interacting on their Facebook page throughout this time. And so I just want you to scan this QR code here, join Mom Cozy's community. I have been checking out their page once a week. I'll check it out again next week as well to just answer your questions in real time. But this is a platform that has over 15,000 moms on it. And since I've been looking at it throughout our series together, I've really been impressed with the community that exists in there of parents supporting parents. But that's where you can find out the latest from Mom Cozy, any upcoming events that they have, and lots of other content. So make sure you're following and checking that out. But let's introduce myself so we can dive in. My name is Emily Silver. I am a former labor and delivery nurse. I delivered babies in Boston for about 7 years on the night shift. Loved it. It was the best job ever. And then I became a family nurse practitioner. And so I really specialize in women's health. What I do is I see patients through my company, NAPS. I own NAPS with another nurse you'll see here on the screen named Jamie. And NAPS is a place where we educate parents who are expecting a baby or pregnant all the way through the newborn, baby, toddler years. And we do that through offering you like medical advice, also like what do we know through research? What do we not know? We've just always done it that way. And so we're always want to show up and give you really great content and education as providers, nurses. But we're also parents just like you. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. They're 9, 7, and 2.5. Jamie's a mom of 3 kids. A lot of us on our team are parents. And so we always want to merge that like real life parenting advice with what we know through research and what we don't know. We never want you to feel judged. It's my job or any of the NAPS nurses' jobs to help you navigate options so you can pick what's right for you as a family. And I think that's really important when we talk about sleep today. When I think about the sleep space as parents, there's a lot of products about sleep. There's a lot of fear mongering about sleep, and there's a lot of advice on what to do about sleep. And largely speaking, a lot of the advice is right. It's just different. And so we need to figure out what's going to be best for you and your family. So I'm going to tell you more about NAPS at the end because we have really cool prenatal classes. If you're pregnant, we have an online membership with over 100 videos and Ask a Nurse board where you can post us questions anytime. We answer you within 24 hours. There's really, really cool stuff going on at NAPS. And through our partnership with Mom Cozy, we're offering you discounts this month. And we wound up here this month because it is it was National Breastfeeding Week and then World Breastfeeding Month. So we've been doing a feeding series. And so I'll make sure you have access at the end to all the recordings. Okay, big sip of water. We're going to dive right in. We are here to talk about getting more sleep with newborns in consideration with how we're feeding them and when we're feeding them. So the first webinars of this series were Breastfeeding 101, getting started with pumping and going back to work. And I really wanted to end the series with sleep because, like I already referenced before, people always say, oh, you're having a baby, you're never going to sleep again. There's a lot of mixed information out there on sleep. And I really just want people to have some tactical tips that you can do with your newborn that help set you up for healthy sleep habits and potentially to get longer stretches of sleep. When I think about sleep and newborns, I'm thinking my newborns in the first 12 weeks. So I think of it in buckets, 0 to 12 weeks are my bitty babies, my little newborns. 12 to 16 weeks is when we experience so much change with sleep, growth and development, the ability to self-soothe. And then we get into our older babies, let's call it 16 weeks, 4 months and beyond. So today we're really going to focus on newborns, which feels super relevant for everybody out there today because a lot of you are pregnant or you're home with newborns. So I like to start with newborns, and you can relate to this if you're out there with a baby right now in the first few weeks. They're very nocturnal. So when you are pregnant or you're expecting a baby, your baby is all cozy and packaged in your belly. They're surrounded by amniotic fluid. It's turbulent in the womb. It sounds like that whoosh, that white noise or a vacuum cleaner. There is light in there, but it's like a darker, soothing environment. And when you're walking around all day and you're expecting that baby, they're getting a little jiggle. And so they are soothed. And so typically speaking, when you're expecting, you're moving around all day, you may or may not really be paying attention to your baby's movements, but let's call it around 9, 10 o'clock at night, you lay down and you're like, okay, I'm going to just get ready to go to bed. When you finally lay down and you stop moving, bam, they're awake, right? They're like little Tasmanian devils in your belly and they're kicking and they're moving around. And actually in the evening, your maternal blood sugar starts to decline and that contributes to the movement as well. So no surprise here. When you bring that baby home in the first week or two, it feels like they're sleeping all day and you have to really get them up for feeds. And then in the middle of the night, when you feed them at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, they're like, hello, wide awake, looking at you. They're nocturnal. And so what we want to do is kind of flip. The first step is we want to flip that nocturnal switch. Okay. So I like to focus on feeds during the day. So when I think about a daytime window, and I've had 3 kids, right? When I'm thinking about my daytime window, when I'm home with my babies, that's usually about 6 or 7 in the morning till call it 10 or 11 o'clock at night. It's a big window. And what I want you all to do is to focus on getting feeds in that big window. And so typically we're feeding a baby, whether we're breastfeeding or bottle feeding or both, we're feeding our newborns about every 2 to 3 hours or on demand, like they just, when they want to eat, basically. But let's call it every 2 to 3 hours just to help people really wrap their brains around this. So during the day, to flip that nocturnal switch, we want to get our babies up for feeds. Have you heard never wake a sleeping baby? Tell me. Yes, everybody says, you'll never sleep again. They also say, never wake a sleeping baby, okay? That's not true for newborns. I do want newborns to get up for feeds. It's not that I'm worried they'll sleep too much during the day and they'll be wide awake at night. Like if I took a nap right now, I'd probably have trouble sleeping tonight. Sleep begets sleeps with our little babies. But if they miss calories, they're going to be looking for calories in the middle of the night. So step one, between 6 or 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, we're getting our babies up for feeds. We're waking our newborns for feeds about every 2 to 3 hours. Again, whether you're breastfeeding or bottle feeding or both. So if I fed my newborn at 12 o'clock p.m., like at lunchtime, noon, and they're still sleeping around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I am going to unswaddle that baby. I'm going to change their diaper. I'm going to get them up for a feed to get those calories in, right? We're trying to get more calories in during the day so we can get longer stretches of sleep at night eventually. Now, I want to comment on babies and their birth weight. All babies lose weight. They're born at a certain birth weight, and before you go home from the hospital, when you're discharged, they'll have lost a little bit of weight. We expect that newborns lose some weight. That's expected. In fact, newborns have up to 2 weeks to regain their birth weight. And if you think back to our first session in this series, when we talked about breastfeeding 101, and you can go back and watch the recording, I talk about how your body makes milk in pregnancy and how your milk changes from colostrum and it transitions, and then you get your mature milk, your full milk supply in. That happens about 3 to 5 days after delivery. Our bodies are amazing, right? We grew this baby, we make milk to feed them, and they lose that little bit of birth weight, and we're transitioning in that milk, right? And so like we expect this, and we give them 2 weeks to regain it. So I want to comment on this because in the first weeks of life, we're obsessed with feeding newborns, especially like pediatricians. We want to make sure they regain their weight. So you'll usually hear feed your baby about every 2 to 3 hours during the day and about every 3 to 4 hours overnight. Once your baby has regained their birth weight, you can check with your pediatrician, but most providers will say to you, okay, your baby can now be your alarm clock overnight. So between, let's call it that 10 p.m. and that 6 or 7 a.m., they're going to get up for feeds because that's normal. They're a newborn, but you don't have to set an alarm. Usually they can wake you up. All right. So here we go. I'm going to keep reiterating things as we go, but we're flipping the nocturnal switch. We're getting in more feeds during the day. We're getting those calories in about every 2 to 3 hours, and we're following their lead overnight. Now, the biggest thing that I see from parents with newborns is they come to me and they're like, Emily, we're really struggling at night. My baby is crying a lot. They're hard to get down, or they're tough in the evening. People are saying cluster feeding. I see it out there. The most common thing that I find with newborns and parents who are having a hard time is that their baby is overtired. So when I think about the first 12 weeks, I think about you, the parents out there. Your only job for your baby is to feed your baby and not let them get overtired. So we're feeding our baby, getting those calories in every 2 to 3 hours. We're making sure they regain their birth weight. And now we're making sure that we're not letting them get overtired, because an overtired baby is a hot mess express. And I'm sure you've all been there. We've all had overtired babies. I do this for a living, and I still, with my 3 kids, would have moments where like I missed an awake window or I didn't get them down for a nap in time. And now they're overtired and they're harder to get back to sleep. So what I want you to focus on, and I said it before, sleep begets sleep. I'm not worried that they're going to sleep too much. I just want to make sure they get those calories in. I do want to make sure that we watch their awake windows. So what do I mean by this? For a newborn in the first 12 weeks, they are usually able to stay awake for about 60 to 90 minutes. And then now they're tired. Actually, take out your phones if you have them and go to, if you do Instagram, go to Instagram and follow Nurture by NAPS. We just put a post up in our feed on wake windows, a little chart, okay? And these are important to follow because you're getting those calories in and you want to make sure your baby's not overtired. So with that newborn, I know they can tolerate being awake for about 60 to 90 minutes, and then they're going to start fussing again. And sometimes you're like, oh gosh, why are they fussing? Are they still hungry? If you're breastfeeding, did they get enough? Do I need to feed them again? But if you just had a really great feed at noon, like I said, like we're using the noon example, I would expect around 1 or 1:30 that baby's going to get fussy again. And now they're tired. And we need to help them fall asleep. They don't know what to do. Newborns, they don't know how to fall asleep. If you put them down in their bassinet or their crib, they're probably going to look at you and then they're going to cry because I don't know what to do, which is why we swaddle them. We soothe them. They like bouncing. They like repetitive motion. They love white noise. They love sucking. They may like a pacifier. Okay. So I joke that sleep is on you. It's your job to help them fall asleep, right? They don't know what to do. And then also, by the way, newborns love being held all the time. So you're probably finding that they're like taking their best naps when you're holding them, when you're wearing them in a carrier, when you're out for a walk. And so in the first 12 weeks, you're really not making or breaking any bad habits. Newborns don't know what to do. They're in the 4th trimester. They need you. They need help. When they cry, they need something. They're hungry. They need a diaper change, or they're tired. They need help falling asleep. So it is okay to help your baby. Yes, and somebody said this in the chat, we're recreating the womb. Yes, it's the 4th trimester. We're helping them feed. We're getting the calories in. I'm going to watch that awake window, and then I'm going to help them fall asleep. When I think about naps for a newborn, they're all over the place. A newborn might sleep for 20 minutes. They might sleep for 45 minutes. They might sleep for 2 hours. And that's okay too. When we get to that 12 to 16 week range that I referenced earlier, we change. There's so much change developmentally. Newborns switch from a newborn sleep cycle to an adult sleep cycle. They start to have the ability to self-soothe. If they fuss, they might find their fingers, or they might be able to actually calm themselves. They start to recognize their sleep environment and their bedtime routine. Oh, I'm in my crib. It's time for bed. But in those first 12 weeks, they're so small and they just need your help. And that's okay. Please be kind to yourselves. It's okay to help them. It's okay to feed them. It's okay to help them fall asleep. Now we want to make sure they're safe, right? So during the day, if you're wearing a carrier, you're going out for a walk and they take that big long nap, that's great. We're banking really good sleep. At night, when you're tired and when you're sleeping, we do want you to put them down. So I usually teach parents to get their baby in a nice tight swaddle, put them in their bassinet or their crib on their back. We don't want any bumpers or pillows or anything around them that could interfere with breathing. And we talked about pacifiers in an earlier webinar of this series, but we know through research that pacifiers do not impact your early breastfeeding experience. Pacifiers are linked through research to a reduction of SIDS. So I do use them with sleep if you want to. If parents want to use a pacifier, your baby likes a pacifier, you can use them for sleep. Okay, so I want to summarize this really quick before I keep moving on other tips for overnight sleep. We're getting in, I'm going to really do this because I know a lot of you are postpartum and you're tired, okay? So between 6 or 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, we're getting our calories in. We're feeding our newborns every 2 to 3 hours. We're watching their awake window. About 60 to 90 minutes after that feed, they're going to be tired. And we are going to proactively move in on sleep. Whether we're wearing them or going for a walk, or we're going to get them in a swaddle, we're going to bounce them, we're going to give them a pacifier, we're going to help them fall asleep, and then we're going to put them down for sleep. And a nap for a newborn is probably going to be 20 minutes to 45 minutes to 2 hours. And that's okay as long as we're not having only 20-minute naps all day long. If we have a 20-minute nap and another 20-minute nap, I'm going out for a walk to make sure that baby takes an hour nap, right? We want to make sure we're banking really good sleep, okay? Now, when I think about that awake window, one other thing I'll say is that it includes a feeding session. So I'm back to my noon, my 12 o'clock example. If I breastfeed my baby on one side at 12 o'clock, okay, 12:20, I burp them, they spit up, I change their diaper, I get them back on the other side, it's 12:40. All of a sudden it's 1 o'clock, an entire hour went by, right? That's what it feels like when you're feeding and taking care of a newborn. But now I'm an hour in, that's 60 minutes. It included that feeding session. So now I'm like, okay, I better help this baby fall asleep. All right. Hopefully this is making sense. Let's keep going and we're going to give you more tips and tricks. So let's talk about overnights because I already joked about this. I can't stand when people tell you you'll never sleep again. I think it's super duper unhelpful. So overnights. I think about my overnights with my newborns, like I said, about 10 o'clock at night till 6 or 7 in the morning. I'm sure you've all noticed this with your little babies out there. They really don't settle for the night until much later in the night. Like we have and I saw it in the chat from some people, like the cluster feeding, the witching hours, we may call them. Babies traditionally can feel tough in the evening. Call it from like 5 or 6 o'clock at night till 9 or 10. That's okay. Like instinctually and naturally, they're cluster feeding. They're really trying, if they're breastfeeding, they're just trying to get in all those final calories before the overnights. Even babies who are bottle feeding may cluster feed or feel fussy in the evening. Paying attention to awake windows all day long and not missing out on sleep can help make that better. So keep that in mind. When we move into overnights with newborns are very noisy, right? I bet you all agree. If you're out there with a newborn in the first 12 weeks, they're grunty, they're gassy, they make noises in their sleep. They kind of sound like baby piglets. They're loud. Now, the first 4 weeks, they're pretty like quiet. And then 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they get gassier, fussier, louder. Okay. Statistically speaking, we know through research that the peak of gassy, fussy babies is 6 to 8 weeks of age. So if you're out there and you're in that zone, that's when it starts to feel a little hard, right? Because we're tired, they're still not sleeping a lot, and they're getting gassier and they're getting fussier, and they're really loud at night. Okay, so here's some tips to help you navigate overnights with a newborn. In the middle of the night, when you hear your baby making noises, being gassy, being grunty, before you jump to pick them up and feed them, or pick them up and help them or check on them, I actually just want you to wait a sec. I want you to look at them, and I want you to see if their eyes are open or not. This is mind-blowing. It's really simple here, but if their eyes are shut, they're sleeping. If their eyes are open, they need you. We're going to pick them up, we're going to help them, we're going to feed them. I want you to look at this tonight with your newborns because newborns are incredibly noisy, active sleepers. And it's very common for them to cry in their sleep, to grunt in their sleep, to make noises in their sleep. But if their eyes are shut, they are sleeping and you can leave them alone. This could change your lives tonight, right? Because a lot of times when I teach this in my new mom support groups, I run new mom support groups all the time. We talk about this and they'll say to me, Emily, last night I did it. I looked at the baby at 1 in the morning and his eyes were shut. So I just left him and he kept sleeping and he didn't feed till 4 a.m. He finally at 4 a.m. opened his eyes and cried. So I picked him up and I fed him, right? So I really want you to get clear. Is your baby really awake? Or are they sleeping and are you responding to them because they woke you up, right? We do that all the time. I breastfed my first 2. I bottle fed my 3rd. Those are stories for another day. I had incredibly different feeding journeys for all 3 of my kids, which I love because it makes me a really, I think it makes me a really diverse provider. I love helping parents navigate feeding. But I very much remember when I was breastfeeding my first, that in the middle of the night, I would hear her, she'd be noisy, she'd be grunting, she'd be loud, and I'd look at her and her eyes were shut and I'd say, well, I'm awake now, so I'm just gonna pick her up and feed her, right? And I'd pick her up and I'd breastfeed her because I was like, I wanna go back to sleep. I get it that we all do that, that's normal, we're human. But I'm picking up a baby now in the middle of the night that wasn't awake and wasn't ready for a feed, and I'm introducing calories when they weren't actually hungry, right? So I want you to think about this. We're getting our calories in during the day. It's incredibly normal to feed newborns overnight. They need to be fed overnight, but let's just feed them when they're actually ready to eat. And that's how we get more calories in during the day and less calories at night. So are you responding to your baby because they're awake or not? Okay. If your baby's asleep, but they're noisy and they're waking you up, can you turn your white noise machine up? Can you move the bassinet a little bit more away from your bed so you're not hearing every little noise? Funny enough, my husband, he didn't hear the little noises at night. He seemed to sleep through them. he would wake up if my kids were crying, but he slept through all the little noises. So I then moved the bassinet to his side of the bed. Then I could get a little bit better sleep, and I only woke up when the baby was truly crying and ready to feed. Okay, so a couple little tips for you to think about. Let's keep going. I want to decrease stimulation overnight. Another one of my really favorite tips. I love when you guys think I'm funny. I love when you all laugh at me. Thank you. I think I'm funny sometimes, but I don't know if everybody thinks I'm funny. Okay, so we want to decrease stimulation overnight, right? So when I think about a newborn and I'm home with my babies in the first few weeks, no one knows what they're doing, right? We're learning to breastfeed, or we're learning to pump, we're mixing bottles. It's the middle of the night, we're tired. So we're turning the light on. We are unswaddling our babies to get them up for feeds, and Velcro's loud, right? We unswaddle them and they're like, oh my God, right? We changing their diapers. I'm elbowing my husband because he's asleep. And I'm like, if I'm up, you're up, right? It's loud. We're making a lot of noise, right? And that's okay. We're trying to find our way here. But now, as we get a little bit further out with our newborns, let's call it 6 weeks to make it easy for your brains. This is about 6 weeks out. You're like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm getting good at breastfeeding, or I found my way with pumping. I found my way with bottles, like feeling a little bit better about feeding. Let's try decreasing stimulation in the middle of the night, right? So what do I mean by this? Let's say you get your baby settled at 10 p.m. and at 1 a.m. you hear them making noises, but you look at them and their eyes are shut. So you're like, I'm going to wait because Emily told me if their eyes are shut, they're sleeping. So you wait. And now it's 2 a.m. And at 2 a.m., your baby's crying and their eyes are open. We want to feed them, right? That's normal. They need to feed. And yes, I see it out there. What we can do now is we can pick that baby up in the dark, in their swaddle, in that diaper. That's okay. And we're going to feed them. We can go to breastfeed them on one side. We can bottle feed them. Sometimes we can't make eye contact, right? Have you ever done it? You make eye contact with them and they see you and they're like, oh, it's you. I love you. And now they're wide awake because they're so happy to see you. We want to decrease stimulation, okay? And that way we can get a nice sleepy feed in. They only take in what they need and we can put them right back down again. So for diapers, I know this blows people's mind. They're like, what do you mean? I don't have to change the diaper. If your baby pooped, if you heard them poop, if you smell a poop, change their diaper, right? I don't want them sitting in a poop all night. But as they get older, their GI system develops and matures and poops slow down overnight. And eventually your baby will stop pooping overnight, but they will continue to pee. And all babies go on to sleep through the night. Believe it or not, 11 to 13 hours, they'll sleep through the night. And they do pee while they're sleeping. And in the morning, you will find them in a wet diaper, and that's okay. So what we can do is we can size up the diaper. You can get overnight diapers with more padding. We're going to put triple paste or butt paste on to protect that skin. And when we pick them up for that first feed, if you don't smell a poop or they haven't pooped and they're pretty sleepy, yes, you can pick them up in the dark, in that diaper, in their swaddle, feed them, and put them back down again. And what that does again is it helps them to only take what they need for calories, and it helps them to stay sleepy and to fall back into that deep sleep. All right. If you have younger babies or you're finding it hard to not change their diaper, what you can do is when it's time for a feed, you can get them up. You can breastfeed them on one side or offer them half of their bottle. Then halfway through the feed, you can change their diaper, re-swaddle them and package them, and then put them on the other side, or finish the bottle, finish that feed. That way we can get them nice and calm and sleepy again to the end of that feed to help make it easier to put them back down again in the middle of the night. So before you get up to feed, here's some more tips and tricks. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I've been doing this for 13 years now. This stuff works. All right, every baby's different, but these are the tiny little things that you can do that have a really big impact in the first 12 weeks. Before you get up to feed your newborn in the middle of the night, are they really awake? Are their eyes open? Like I said, maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're like, I don't know, they're fussing, they sound like they're crying, or their eyes are kind of open or they're opening, but I can't tell like if they're really hungry or if they're actually just still tired. So what we can do is we can wait, okay, a few minutes, 5 minutes, and just see, do they need me? If I waited for a couple minutes, would they actually just fall back asleep or stay asleep? Or if I turn up the white noise or shh, lean over them and shush them and put some pressure on their chest. I love the pressure. So I lean over the bassinet and I put my hand on their chest and I go, shh. Maybe I put their pacifier in. Shh. Would that help them stay asleep, connect a sleep cycle? If they're getting active and they're in the light sleep, would that help them get back into a deep sleep? And a lot of times that works. And if that works and they stay asleep or go back to sleep, that's a huge win for your baby. Because now a 1 a.m. feed might become a 1:10 a.m. feed, a 1:20 a.m. feed the next night, 1:30, and now we're at 2 a.m. And so if we are able to help them fall back asleep, we're getting a longer stretch. It's annoying for you, right? Because you had to get up and do all this, but then they fell back asleep. Huge win for them. But again, I want to reiterate, let's say you did this, pressure, shushing, pacifier, and they fell back asleep. And now 20 minutes later, an hour later, or several hours later, they're awake and they're crying and their eyes are open. Pick them up and feed them. That's okay. It's normal to have feeds overnight. We're just starting to get clear. Are you actually hungry, or actually are you still sleeping, or do you need to go back to sleep? We're getting really thoughtful about when we're picking up and feeding them. But if they're hungry, you should pick them up and you should feed them because they're still really little and they do need some calories overnight. But these are the things that we can do to help teach them to sleep longer stretches at night. So I use the word NAPS to remember this, NAPS. Our company is NAPS, Newborn and Parenting Support. But N is for do nothing. Do they need me? I'm going to wait a few minutes. A is for audio. Could I shush them or increase the white noise? P is for pressure. Could I put pressure on their chest to help them? S is for sucking. Could I offer them a pacifier to see if they actually really are awake and hungry or just need to go back to sleep because they're still tired? Because again, newborns are very loud, active sleepers, as I said. All right. Now, let's talk about force feeding here. This is stuff that I did when I was postpartum, and I already kind of alluded to it. Is I would tell you, I would see that my daughter was not awake in her bassinet, but she woke me up, and I was like, I'm awake. I want to feed her so I can go back to sleep, right? So we want to be careful that we're not giving them calories if they're actually really not awake or ready. It's not bad if you mess this up, by the way. Like it's okay. Like if you don't get it right. But if we're trying to teach them longer stretches of sleep at night, we want to make sure they're actually really hungry. Let's decide that they're finally awake. You're like, okay, eyes are open, they're crying. It's time for a feed. I am going to pick them up and feed them. We're picking them up in the dark. We're keeping them swaddled. We're not changing their diaper if they don't need us to. What I want to make sure is that you know that it's okay if they only take one breast and fall back asleep, or they only take 3/4 of their bottle and fall back asleep. That's okay. Just put them back down again. They took exactly what they needed. And what we can sometimes do as parents is, I get my girls up to breastfeed them on one side and they fall back asleep. And then I think to myself, oh, I want you to take the other side. I want to get both sides in, because if I get both sides in, you'll have more, and then maybe you'll sleep till morning, right? Or we're kind of like trying to get them to finish that bottle. And what I don't want you to do is riling them up or waking them up to finish the feed, because now we're just telling them, hey, wake up in the middle of the night to eat more than you needed to in the first place, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So if they only eat for 5 minutes, or they only take one side and not the other, or they don't finish that bottle and they fall back asleep, it's okay. Just put them back down again, go back to sleep. I have a feeling this question will come up, so I'm just going to address it now. We talked about this in the earlier series, which is navigating overnights as a breastfeeding mom. And when you wake up and you feel really full, but your baby's still sleeping, I love to leave a manual pump or like a handheld pump on the nightstand, so that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I'm so full, I'm really engorged, but my baby's still sleeping, they're not ready for a breastfeeding session yet, if you have some kind of manual or handheld pump on your nightstand, in the dark, you can just sit right in your bed and you can let a little bit of milk out. You put it to your breast and you manually let some milk out. There's different silicone collectors out there. Maybe you do some hand expression into those. You're just taking the sharp edge off. You're letting a little bit of milk out. So you can say like, okay, I still feel full and I'm ready for that next breastfeeding session. If it's in 10 minutes or an hour from now, but I'm not as tight and uncomfortable, I could fall back asleep. And then you can just put that right on your nightstand because breast milk can sit out at room temperature for up to 4 hours, probably more, honestly, right? So just put it on your nightstand and go back to sleep. That way, when your baby's up and ready to feed, you still are ready for that next feeding session. So we'll just call that out right now because I have a sneaky suspicion that's going to be a question. Let's talk about expectations for newborns because we're tired. All of us, we're all tired when we have a newborn. It's a lot of work. We're feeding them all the time. They need a lot of help falling asleep and they're not sleeping a lot. It's very fragmented, right? But it is going to get better. And I referenced earlier at 12 to 16 weeks, there's so much change, which is so incredible. Babies really change. They switch from a newborn sleep cycle to an adult sleep cycle. They developmentally have the ability to start to learn to self-soothe, put themselves to sleep. They start to recognize a bedtime routine, which is simple. Like it's dark, I turn the white noise on, I put you in your swaddle. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. It's bedtime, right? They really evolve. So we're being kind to ourselves in the first 12 weeks though, because we're just feeding these babies and making sure they don't get overtired and we're helping them. When I think about newborns, like a classic textbook baby is they usually feed 3 times overnight, okay? So we have that feed at like, let's call it 10 p.m., maybe 1 a.m., maybe 4:30 a.m. We're feeding, we're feeding, we're feeding. What usually happens is around 12 to 16 weeks, when they switch from that newborn sleep cycle to that adult sleep cycle, they start to get tired earlier. Somewhere between 6 and 8 p.m., they're tired, they're tired, they're tired. And you think to yourself, oh, geez, it feels like they just need to go to bed. And babies back their bedtime down. But they still tend to feed 3 times overnight. They usually drop the first feed of the night first, the last feed of the night second, and that middle nudgy of the night feed last. So what often happens for parents is they put their baby to bed at like 7:30 p.m. because they were so tired, and they sit around and wait till 10 p.m. to breastfeed or pump, whatever it was that they were doing. And all of a sudden one night, the baby just doesn't wake up at 10 p.m. They just keep on sleeping and they clear midnight, which is a huge win. They always drop that first feed first. And then parents think to themselves, well, geez, they can sleep 6 hours. I'd rather put them to bed late at 10 or 11 like we used to do, and they can sleep 6 hours through the middle of the night. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. Like they need the earlier bedtime now. They always do that big, long stretch first. This is where dream feeds come into play. We're going to talk about Nurture by NAPS, our online membership at the end, but we have tons of quick little hit videos that are like 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long. One of them is dream feeds. A dream feed is when your baby is back their bedtime down, they're going to bed earlier, and they're sleeping a big, long stretch, but they're still getting up twice overnight, 1 and 4, 1 and 4. It's really, it's painful, right? A dream feed, a true dream feed would be that you walk into the baby's nursery or their room at like 9 or 9:30 p.m. You pick them up in the dark, in their sleep, in the swaddle, and you breastfeed them or bottle feed them, a dream feed, to see if you do that, if they miss the next feed. So a successful dream feed would be usually an older baby, 12 to 16 weeks. We're feeding them when they're asleep around 9 or 10 o'clock, and it helps bust out the next feed, the 1 a.m. one, or it helps them sleep through the night. I want to clarify dream feeds because people always ask about those on these classes, and that's what that means. Not all babies can do a dream feed. Some are unable to wake up for the feed. Some will happily feed, but they still get up at 1 and 4, so it's not working. But that's a little trick for you to try if that is relevant for you and your baby right now. So babies do tend to naturally drop feeds overnight, and they go on to sleep through the night, which is, it's amazing, right? It's incredible, but they go to bed earlier and they sleep 12 hours, usually overnight. All of your babies will do this someday. They will all get there in different ways, right? Some babies will naturally do this. Some babies will do this as they get older when they're starting solid foods. Some babies will never do this because they're like, I love eating at night, keep feeding me. And then you hear about, sleep training or tips or methods to help them learn to sleep more at night and eat more during the day. There's a lot of different things out there with sleep. And there's many, many ways to teach your babies to sleep as they get older. None of them are wrong. They're all really right and they're great. It's about finding what works for you as the parent that feels good for you. And so if you have an older baby, 4 months, 5 months older than that, and you're struggling with sleep, I'm more than happy to talk to you. There's so many different ways that we can help get into good sleep schedules and routines, but we have to pick one that feels good for you because I'm not there at 1 a.m. with you, right? So I got to make sure you pick something that feels good for you. I want to talk about, I'm pivoting here and I want to talk about something completely different. I did this to you all last week because I talked about boundaries unexpectedly in a pumping workshop. I want to talk about asking for help and accepting help for my parents, especially who are pregnant or home with newborns and you're listening right now. I told you that the first 12 weeks, you're not making or breaking any bad habits. Be kind to yourselves. Your babies need you. They need to be fed. They need help falling asleep. It's okay if you wear them in a carrier and they take a big long nap on you. It's okay if they take a big long nap when you go out for a lovely walk outside. That's not bad. We just want to help them feed and sleep. We want to keep them safe. We're putting them down at night or when we're sleeping. But in this first 12 weeks, if your only job for your baby is to feed them and not let them get overtired, you also need to take care of yourself as the parent. And that's really hard to do because you're tired and you're taking care of this baby. So you need a lot of help. And I want to normalize this. Parents who are out there with a newborn, you're not doing this alone. It's not possible. You need people. You need to be outsourcing things. Maybe you're hiring people or paying people to help you. Hopefully you have family or friends that can help you. Like you're bringing in all of the things to help you, especially in these first 12 weeks when we're feeding a lot and not sleeping a lot. And so one little thing that I like to do, and I teach this in all my new mom support groups, is how to ask for help and how to accept help. For my moms out there, for the women, there's something out there called maternal gatekeeping. You can tell me in the chat if you've ever heard of it. But it's this inherent, it's through research, like we're inherently wired to want to do it all, to want to take it all on for our babies. And in doing so, we do this thing called gatekeeping, where if our partners or our families offer to help us, we're like, no, we're good, I'll do it, I'm on it, I've got it. And in doing so, we're actually declining help sometimes without even realizing that we're doing it. And it's really hard to ask for help. Asking for help is a learned skill. So you need to start practicing it daily to be able to do it. It's like if a yoga teacher told you, hey, start meditating. You'd be like, I don't know like how to do that. Like, how do I do that every day? I can't just sit and meditate. You have to practice it every day to figure out like how to do it, how to get good at it, and how to put it in your daily routine. Okay, so where am I going with this? When you are postpartum and you're home with your baby, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to say to yourself out loud, one thing that you're going to do that day, one thing that you're not going to do, and one thing that you can ask for help with that day. What does this look like? Okay, I just had a baby. I'm home. I'm alone all day because my partner's back at work. I get up in the morning and I say out loud, I am going to go for a walk today. Come hell or high water, I will get out of this house and I will walk. With the baby in the stroller, we're going outside. What am I not going to do today? I'm not going to fold the laundry in the dryer. I hate doing laundry. I see it. It's there. It's been there. I'm not doing that today. What can I ask for help with? I'm going to ask my husband to pick up dinner on his way home from work. Okay, see how simple it is? Because then at the end of the day, when that day felt really long and you were alone all day and you're tired and you think to yourself, what did I do today? What did I not do today? Right? We all do this to ourselves. You can say to yourself, hey, today I went for a walk. I said I was going to walk. That was the one thing I wanted to do today. And I went and I did it. I'm like, that's awesome. I did it. Then when you see the laundry sitting in the dryer and you want to feel guilty about it or bad that you didn't do it, you say to yourself, I never said I was going to do that. And you're practicing asking for help. Your partner brought dinner home. That's one thing off your plate, no pun intended. And you're integrating asking for help on a daily basis, which in turn will help you learn to accept help when it's offered to you. Because I bet there's a lot of people out there in your lives that are offering to help you. And I want you to think about this right now. Have you been saying yes? Are you taking them up on it, the help? Because we're really wired to, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. So I really want you to think about these things. Okay. Perfect. I wanted at least 15 minutes with you all to answer your questions and to talk to you. Before I jump out to talk to you about any and all questions that you have for me, I'm going to use the Q&A. I do want to talk to you about Nurture by NAPS. I've talked about it every Friday. I've loved teaching these webinars, and a lot of times on these webinars, people will say, are you teaching other classes? Are there other things that I can come to? The answer is yes. I'd love for you to check out our Instagram, Nurture by NAPS. Check out our website, Nurture by NAPS. We have an online membership platform. When you become a member and you're logged in, there's over 100 short courses and videos. So instead of Googling something, you can just type it in our section of courses, and you're going to get a quick video from an RN or an NP telling you why, what to think about, what we know through research, rather than a deep dive Google spiral. Or if you see something weird on TikTok and you're like, is that true? You can look inside of Nurture. We also have an Ask a Nurse board. You can post a question anytime. We will answer you within 24 hours. It's all real medical professionals in one place. We have a doctor of pelvic floor physical therapy, a mental health counselor, a doctor of occupational therapy. There's weekly Q&As, weekly webinars. So actually today at 1:15, when I'm done here, I'm going into Nurture and I'm teaching a webinar for all of our members. Every week there's live meetups and classes just like this. Our annual membership includes all of your prenatal classes. It includes unlimited sleep calls, unlimited support groups, feeding consultations, so check it out. We're offering everyone through the month of August discounts on our services using MomCozy20. So if you become a member, you can use that code. If you want to just book a virtual feeding consult or a phone call with us, if you want to just book a prenatal class, one-off to check us out, MomCozy20 will give you 20% off all of our services. All right. I want to come out and answer your questions, and then I'm going to come back again because I have a survey that I want you to all take to let us know how we did today. But let's come out and answer your questions first. And then we will also, I think we'll have time. We're going to pick some live giveaway winners for you as well while we're here. So we're going to answer questions. We're going to pick live giveaway winners. We're going to have you take a quick survey. Actually, what I'll do is while I'm answering your questions, you can scan this QR code and tell NAPS and Mom Cozy how we did today. And let's get to our questions. Sorry, y'all, I'm so thirsty. It's because I talk so much. Okay, let me come into the Q&A, and I am going to pick some questions here. How should we balance getting our partner to give the baby a bottle at night versus not pumping too early before you have established supply? So this is a great question, and this is a common question because I work with a lot of moms. They might be exclusively breastfeeding. They might be breastfeeding and pumping. They might be combo feeding, which is breastfeeding, pumping, and giving bottles of breast milk or formula. And so there is this balance, especially for breastfeeding moms or pumping moms, where we're trying to bring our milk supply in, and it's supply and demand. We want to make sure we're doing our feeds or our pumps so our body knows to make milk and empty milk at that time when our baby is eating. However, we're also recovering from a delivery, a vaginal delivery or a C-section. We need to consider perinatal mental health, anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, lack of sleep. And so there is a way to find balance for you and your family to allow your partner to help you with feeds, to make sure you're taking care of yourself as the mom. This will look different for every family, but let me give you an example. I struggled with postpartum anxiety with all three of my kids, so I talk about it all the time. I needed sleep when I was postpartum, and I was breastfeeding, but I also wasn't well. Like, I was having a lot of anxiety. So 2 nights a week, what I would do is I would breastfeed, pump to really empty my breasts out, and I would go to bed. And my partner would keep the baby in another room. And that next time she was up for a feed, he would give her a bottle of the breast milk I had pumped. I did not get up to pump at that time. I didn't even know he was doing it. I made an active decision to sleep through that feed because I knew that the benefit of that, the benefit for my mental health outweighed that risk that I wasn't emptying my breasts at that time. And then he would put the baby in the room next to me after that bottle. So the next time she woke up to breastfeed, I would pick her up and I would breastfeed her. Okay. So, there are ways that you can do things every night, every other night, maybe just once a week. But we are walking this balance, right? We want to make sure we're effectively draining and emptying our breasts. And so in that example that I gave you, what I did was I pumped before I went to bed to really empty my breasts so I could buy myself a little bit more time. Now, this question also talks about making sure you're not pumping too close to a feed a little bit. So if you are exclusively breastfeeding, and we talked about this in the other workshops, let me explain to you how to get all your recordings too. But when you're pumping, what you don't want to do is breastfeed and then an hour or two later pump and then an hour later breastfeed because your breast won't be as full and your baby might feel frustrated. So if you are pumping to make some milk for your partner, I usually pump somewhere in the morning after one of those first feeds. So you get up in the morning, you breastfeed, put the baby down, and then you're pumping for call it like 10 or 15 minutes, and whatever you make, you can save and you can bank. Okay, I'm gonna come back out to more questions, but let's talk about the recordings really quick because I've referenced them and I know people were asking in the chat. All of the recordings for this series will live on the Mom Cozy YouTube page. Eventually, they'll get them all uploaded there. This week, you will be hearing from NAPS. Keep an eye out in your inbox. You're going to receive an email from NAPS. And in that email will not only be the recordings, but also course notes that go to each recordings, and then ways that you can get in touch with us if you need support. So be checking your emails this week and be watching the Mom Cozy YouTube page. Okay, let's go back into the chat. Not the chat, sorry, the Q&A. How do you know if your baby's overtired? That's a great question for this webinar. Sometimes you're going to get it wrong, right? But with your newborns, they're either hungry or they're tired. They could be other things, right? They could need a diaper change. They could be overstimulated. They could be hot, right? But we're trying to figure out, are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you tired? So I try to think about where I'm at in my feeding process for this question. So if I just did a feed at noon and my baby took both sides, and now it's 1 or 1:30 and they're fussy, I'm going to say to myself, well, you're probably tired because you already ate, you had both sides. It's been about 60 to 90 minutes. I think you're tired. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to help that baby fall asleep. I'm going to swaddle that baby. I'm going to pat them. I'm going to bounce around. I'm going to really invest some time and some soothing to see if my baby falls asleep. And if they fall asleep, then I'll say to myself, okay, you were tired. If I can't get them to fall asleep and they're still rooting or they're still unhappy, I'll just put them back on the boob or top them off at the bottle. And I'll say to myself, okay, maybe you are still hungry, right? And I'm sure you've all been there as parents of newborns. Like sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you're like, I think you're tired. And then you're 20 minutes in, you're like, maybe you're still hungry. You're never going to mess it up. All right. You're smart people. You're good parents. You love your baby. You're just trying to figure out what they need. Are you hungry? Are you tired? But leaning into feeding the baby every 2 to 3 hours, watching the awake window, 60 to 90 minutes, helping them fall asleep, that simple schedule or routine for your mind can help you figure out where are you at? Are you hungry? Are you tired? All right. If your baby takes a short nap, only 20 or 30 minutes, and they wake up and they're still tired, just extend sleep on you or let them keep sleeping. That's also okay too. All right. Let's go back out to our Q&A. A lot of questions about pacifiers. I'm not surprised by that. And I referenced this. Please watch the webinar on Breastfeeding 101 if you are a breastfeeding mom. But let's just call it out really quick. We know through research, there's research that supports that Like we thought before, we used to feel worried or think that pacifiers would cause nipple confusion or impact a breastfeeding experience, but latest research says no, that's actually not true. Pacifiers do not impact a breastfeeding experience. We want to make sure that you're working with lactation and that you understand how and when to breastfeed, that you have a deep latch, that you're bringing your milk in, all of the stuff we talk about in that first webinar. So please watch that. But the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, says here in the United States that you can introduce a breastfeed pacifier when breastfeeding is well established. And I reference that. I like that guideline because it's flexible, because that could look very different for any mom out there. Maybe it's a few days after delivery, maybe it's a few weeks, maybe it's longer. And when it comes to pacifiers, you know, I don't have a particular brand that I recommend. I do think you just have to try one or two and see what your baby likes. They come in different shapes. There's some are flat, some are wide. And so you're really just actually just seeing what your baby likes, and then you can pick one and stick with it. Okay, let's do this. So make sure you scan that QR code, take that survey, tell us how we did today. I'm going to answer one more question. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 10 winners to win prizes from Mom Cozy. They have breastfeeding bags, and we're also giving away memberships to Nurture by NAPS. And you have to be here live to win. We pick randomly 10 people who are here live. So we'll do one more question, and then we're going to do that. Let's go into the Q&A here. Wow, there's so many questions, and they're so amazing. It's making it really hard to pick one. I'm trying to pick something a little bit different. So there's some questions about swaddles and sleep in here. So let's actually do that, especially about when you should take your babies out of swaddles. And I actually feel like that's an important one to do. We really swaddle babies quite often in the first 12 weeks because they're a newborn, they're in that 4th trimester, and we're trying to recreate that comfort that they felt in the womb. And also because they have what's called a startle reflex. So newborns have reflexes. They yawn, hiccups. If you put your hand in their finger in their hand, they grab it. If you swipe their feet, they fan their toes. They have all these cute little newborn reflexes. One of them is the startle reflex. And that's actually where they startle, they throw their arms and their legs out. They may do it in reaction to a loud noise, like a door slamming. They may just do it for no reason at all. And so if we have put them down in their sleep and they're not swaddled, in the first 12 weeks, they'll commonly will wake themselves up. Like they'll actually have that reflex happen. And when they throw their arms and legs out, it scares them and they start to cry. So usually if we're putting them down for sleep and we're not holding them or we're not with them, I do put them in a swaddle simply so they don't wake themselves up. I find swaddles to be helpful to promote safe sleep. Safe sleep is putting our babies down on their backs for sleep in an environment where they don't have any loose blankets around them or pillows where they could suffocate. So I like them on a back, in a swaddle with a pacifier. All those things I think are really great for safe sleep when they're alone in their crib or their bassinet. Now, when a baby can roll from back to belly all by themselves, they no longer can be swaddled. They need to have their arms free so that they can freely roll from back to belly, and then they'll learn how to get from belly to back again. Babies do this at different milestones. On average, around 4 months of age, they learn to roll. Could be a little sooner, a little later for some babies. They're usually showing you signs of rolling during the day. So when you have them on their activity mat or for tummy time, they're actually like trying to get on their side, and they really are working, and then all of a sudden they do it. And then at that point, when they can roll from back to belly, you can put them in a sleep sack or something that has their arms free. All right. So many other amazing questions out here. I do want to come to our chat. I want to pick our giveaway winners. If you did not get your question answered today, thank you, everyone. You're so great. Check out Nurture by NAPS. I'm doing something special for you all today. I did this last Friday, and a lot of you took advantage of it. I want you to go to Nurture by NAPS to our membership page. And if you use the code Emily30, that is going to give you access to our monthly membership for $30 for 30 days. That's how much I want you to check it out. $30 for 30 days. Go to our membership page. Hannah's going to drop in the chat our link. When you land on our membership page, it'll advertise the annual membership. Scroll down to the FAQ section. And in that first part of the FAQ section, if you click there, you can try the monthly membership, $30 for 30 days. Use the code Emily30. That's how much I love you all. I want to keep talking to you. When you log in, this code is only good till Monday. When you log in, go to the Ask a Nurse board and ask me any question that you want. There's over 100 questions in the Q&A right now. Go in, go to the Ask a Nurse board, ask me anything. We will answer you within 24 hours. Okay, we're going to pick 10 winners. Hannah, I know you're out there. If you can you track them for me? It's at random. I have a random process here. When I call your name, you need to tell me in the chat that you're here. You have to be live to win. We're going to pick 10 winners. All right, here we go. We have a Louise Tran. Louise Tran, if you're here, tell us. Okay. That's our first person. Tell me if you see her. I don't see Louise yet. If we don't see Louise, we're going to pick another person. Okay. We have an Alina Sung. Alina Sung, are you here? Tell me in the chat if you're here. Okay. Oh, Alina's here. Great. We have our first winner. All right. Hannah, are you tracking these for me? Tell me if you're tracking these because I don't have Mom Cozy here right now. It's just me. Okay, I have a Martha Tassiopolis. Martha Tassiopolis, are you out there? Okay, tell me if you're out there. Great. We have a Stephanie Mekhissian, Mekhssian. Stephanie, if you're out there, tell us. Let's see. We have Nadine Alfi, Alhafi. Nadine, if you're out there, tell me. Great. Okay. Let's see. Marie Young. Marie Young, if you're here, tell me in the chat. Clara Dominguez. Clara Dominguez, if you're out there, let me know. Caitlin Todd. Is there a Caitlin Todd? How we doing? Okay, we're still getting people. Hannah, how many have I picked? I feel like I've done 6. It's the hardest part, keeping track. How many more can we pick here? All right. Let's see. A couple more people here. Tiffany Sutton. If Tiffany Sutton is out there. Karina Moreno. Korrina. Karina Moreno. All right. Sorry, y'all. The chat is so hopping. I'm moving my way through it. All righty. Let's see. All right. Oh, Caitlin Todd, you're so sweet. You were picked last week. Okay, thank you. We'll pick somebody else. That's very sweet of you. Okay. Yes, if you already won, thank you for telling me. We'll pick somebody else who's here. Okay. I have a this is hard. Shar Mendez. Shar Mendez. Tria Vadgama. Tria Vadgama. Lara Gomez. Okay. You guys are all so cute in the chat. Brianna Appleby. I'm going to mess this up, but Chin Ye. Chinenye, and your last name is Umezulike. How we doing? All right, we got more people here. Hannah, how many more can I do? 2 more? 1 more? All right, everyone's here. Okay. Great. All right, so before I think I can pick one or I think I can do one more. And so before I do this too, if your name was picked, you're gonna email Mom Cozy right here in the chat. mcp@momcozy.com. I know you want me to pick 100 more people. I can't. All right, let's pick. I'm moving around. I'm moving around. Michaela Miles. Michaela Miles. All right, there you go. All right, I'm pretty sure I got 10 people, but if I didn't, I will, Mom Cozy will pick more of you and put it in the email that they send out. But I think we got everybody. If I called out your name, email Mom Cozy at the email that we dropped in the chat. And hopefully Hannah tracked you all as well. So we'll make sure that we, oh, I see. If I picked double winners, don't worry. We're still going to give more stuff away. Mom Cozy is going to send out an email with the recording, and they will also put more winners in there. So don't worry about that at all. And if you did win a NAPS subscription, I see somebody asked about there. Mom Cozy is rounding up all the winners, and they're going to give them to NAPS, and then we're going to give you unique codes. So all 4 series, each week we gave things away. So if you were a winner, as long as you emailed Mom Cozy, we're going to round you all up, and we're going to ship you your prizes and give you your breastfeeding bags and your annual membership. So don't worry. All right, everybody. So that's our webinar for today. Thank you so much for being here. It was so great meeting you all. Use your codes, Emily30, 30 days for $30. Come and talk to me this weekend. Thanks for being here. Check out NAPS, check out Mom Cozy. And I look forward to working with you all soon. Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone. All right, bye. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the kind words. You're all amazing. Every week, you're so good to me. All right. Bye, everyone.